Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 25 minutes before 10 o'clock, a little bit overcast today. I think the rain is done. I see it wet out there, but I think the rain is done, right? Hey, we had a disagreement with one of our network radio folks, and that would be Glenn Beck. Some time ago, we had a disagreement with him because he was promoting Bitcoin. And I tried to get a hold of him, but of course, being a big shot and me not being a big shot, it was just impossible. But I had a message for him, and whether he ever got it, I don't know. The message was that we had a guest on who told us that Bitcoin makes its money because it's untraceable, because it needs to be untraceable if you're going to use it for money laundering purposes, which includes child sex trafficking and other things that are just unheard of, and not unheard of, but unthinkable, or however, whatever adjective you want to use there. Mm-hmm. So it's always been my thought, and not even just with that, but even in the past when I've heard about investing in corporations that seem to be, on the up and up, are they involved in something that is not so on the up and up? I mean, we've heard stories from history about how money was filtered over to the Nazis by some corporations, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not an anti-corporation guy. In fact, I'm quite the opposite. And to support that statement, we've had guests on who were anti-capitalist, who I will say, well, wait a minute, you're selling a book. Aren't you hoping for a profit? Yeah, but I mean crony capitalism. They will always throw in that word crony. Okay, well, maybe there's something to that part of the argument. I think basically it boils down to us. If we're going to support something with our money, we have to know where it's going and who's doing what with it. Maybe we have somebody who can help us with this. He is on the phone, George P. Schwartz. I heard him ask you if you ever went to Ocala breeder sales.
Yes.
Yeah? Did you buy a horse?
No.
Did he?
Nope.
Did Mr.
Yes,
Schwartz?
he did.
Okay.
Yes, he did. He bought a few.
Mr. Schwartz is a registered investment advisor. He served on the reception committee at the White House for Pope Benedict during his United States visit. And he's the founder, chairman, and CEO of Schwartz Investment Council. His book is what we're focusing on. It's called In God We Trust, Morally Responsible Investing. George P. Schwartz, it's an honor to have you on our show. Good morning, sir.
Oh, thank you, Larry. It's great to be with you guys.
And where are you? Where are you calling from?
Plymouth, Michigan.
And you've been to OBS? You've been here?
Yeah, I bought a few horses there.
Oh, wow. And how did the horses do?
None of them ended up being Kentucky Derby winners, but I had some nice horses that did okay. Sure.
So tell me, were you able to hear the intro? I hope.
Yes.
Okay. What are your thoughts on things like Bitcoin? Does that seem like something too risky? Forget the risky part, but I mean, as far as being moral or immoral, what do you think?
I don't have an opinion about the morality of it, but I have an opinion about the economic merits of it. I think it's zero. I think Bitcoin is going to be priced at zero at some point.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's got no intrinsic value, and as far as an investment goes, it's ridiculous. It's not an investment; it's a speculative vehicle. And I've heard the stories you mentioned about it being used to launder money and so forth.
Yeah,
and if that's true, it makes it even worse.
Okay, but on that same note, I mean, we've heard of corporations that seem to be, I don't want to name any because I don't want to get it wrong, but corporations, we would know the name, that had as a side venture, I don't know, something that we would disapprove of. And what you disapprove of might be different than what I would disapprove of. I guess that's part of it too, right?
Sure. Yeah, we disapprove of only a few things, and the big one is abortion. And our 100,000 plus shareholders around the country that have invested with us are, to a person, adamantly opposed to abortion, and they're pro-life and pro-family in their orientation and in their morality, and that's what's attracted them to our funds, the Ave Maria mutual funds.
Oh, I like that. I'm on the same page. So is Robin. So let me tell you about that conversation. I had this argument with an author who was not opposed to abortion. She was in favor of abortion. Did I say it right, Robin? Mm-hmm. Okay. And the whole time we're talking, I never once said anything about the law. I never once said anything about Roe versus Wade. I just said I'm opposed to abortion. And toward the end of the conversation, because I know I do the radio show kind of like playing a game of chess. I kind of try to think 2 steps ahead. But in your case, I'm relaxed because I already know.
Good.
But I knew that was my ace. I knew that was my checkmate moment where I could say I never mentioned the law, because that's when she came down. What do you want to change the law? I said I never mentioned the law. I think we all have a responsibility to do what's right, whether there's a law or not.
Good for you. Yep.
So does the book help us decide which companies we should invest in that we agree with morally?
Not so much individual stocks, but the book "In God We Trust" was written to be a promotional piece for the Ave Maria mutual funds, to spread the word about how we invest and how we offer Catholics and like-minded people an opportunity to invest in a manner consistent with their faith. So our funds, which is discussed in the book, our mutual funds, the Ave Maria mutual funds, screen out companies that support abortion and pornography and a few other things. So we're not for everybody. We're not trying to screen out companies that are deemed to be not engaged in social justice, whatever that means, or things like that. We're not screening out companies that are deemed to be not favorable to the environment. We're very narrowly focused on just a few things.
Okay, and that is probably something you've faced with other people you've had conversations with. Is, are you opposed to environmentally irresponsible companies?
Right. That's the so-called socially responsible investing. We call our funds morally responsible. So we're morally responsible investors. And our guidelines are established by our Catholic Advisory Board. We have a Catholic Advisory Board made up of prominent lay Catholics and members of the clergy. And they set the guidelines for what we should screen out. And abortion is the big one.
So how do they do their job? How do they screen a company? And have they ever changed their mind? Has a company ever changed its ways, and then therefore you no longer carry them?
Sure. First of all, the Catholic Advisory Board doesn't do the screening. We do the screening. My analysts and portfolio managers do the screening internally. Plus, we have some outside sources that help us with screening. But they set the guidelines. They say don't invest in companies related to abortion, which includes companies that make abortifacient drugs, the pharmaceutical companies that are insurance companies that pay for abortions. And additionally, they ask us to screen out companies that are engaged in embryonic stem cell research, because that's closely related to abortion. Also, they ask us to screen out companies that contribute corporate funds to Planned Parenthood, the biggest provider of abortions in the country. And lastly, they ask us to screen out companies engaged in pornography, the production or distribution of pornography. So that screens out some of the Hollywood studios and some of the hotel chains that show pornography on their TV screens. And that's all we do. My analysts and portfolio managers have been able to produce good investment results for the Ave Maria mutual funds, focused on just those things.
Are you? Go ahead. Are you able to or willing to tell us some of the names of the companies that you don't carry because of those things?
No, we don't, and our lawyers have asked us not to do that because it's a changing list. We've actually, I think, been successful in getting some companies to stop contributing to Planned Parenthood. We know of at least 35 companies that used to contribute to Planned Parenthood that don't anymore, and I would take partial credit for that. Of course, there's a lot of other organizations that are against abortion, but we've been carrying this banner for 17 years now for investors to not have any of their money invested in companies supporting abortion.
You also your book is also very historical in nature. You talk about the Battle of Long Island. What if it was a country unto itself?
Yeah, you're a good reader. Thanks for looking at my book.
You're welcome.
Long Island is a country, by the way, just so you know. All right, are there any gray areas? For example, let's say a person is running for Congress, and his brother-in-law runs a corporation, and he donates some money, $5,000, whatever, to his campaign, and his political agenda includes supporting the abortion clinics, etc. That you're not really investing in him, but it's somebody else that you would want not to, right?
Yeah.
Is that is that a gray area?
No. We're talking about corporations, and of course, corporations are owned by the shareholders, by the people that buy their stocks, and we're concerned about what those corporations are doing with corporate money, with the shareholders' money. Mm-hmm. So if their brother-in-law is a bad person or doing bad things, that's not our focus. That's not our concern. And you'd end up with an endless list of offenders if you started doing that. And furthermore, for instance, we're interested in what the corporations are doing with the shareholder money. So if a corporation is, has Scott's toilet paper in their bathrooms, and Scott's toilet paper company gives to abortion, that's not our concern. We're concerned about what the corporations are contributing money to. So, in other words, if you could carry this thing to the nth degree and end up with no companies to invest in. So we're very narrowly focused. I'll give you an example of what has changed, too. Originally, we had a fifth hard screen, and it was for non-marital partner benefits, so-called same-sex benefits, or opposite-sex benefits, unmarried people. Uh-huh. So it used to be not many corporations provided these so-called non-marital partner benefits to their employees. But after a while, all corporations were doing it because of political pressure or political correct thinking or whatever. So anyways, I went to our Catholic Advisory Board and I said, if we continue to have this as a hard screen, non-marital partner benefits, we're going to end up with no companies left to invest in for our pro-life, pro-family shareholders. So they said, okay, make it a soft screen. In other words, don't invest in those companies if you can find something better to invest in. So that's what we're doing. But we're zero tolerance on the 4 hard screens.
Well, we had the opportunity of interviewing Phyllis Schlafly, and you speak about her in your book.
What a lady she was.
That was years ago, yeah.
She was just terrific. She, I think, invented the term morally responsible investing, because we were talking about socially responsible investing at one of our board meetings, one of the board meetings of the Catholic Advisory Board, and she said, well, since we're not engaged in socially responsible investing, why don't we call what we do morally responsible investing? And we've been using that term ever since. Some people think I coined that word, but it was really Phyllis, in my view, that was the first to use that term, morally responsible investing. And she was quite a lady, a very good personal friend of Ronald Reagan, and one of my all-time heroes, of course, was Ronald Reagan.
Yeah. So does the book help us? I'm guessing the people who pick up the book already agree with what you're saying. I don't know that the book will change minds. Do you agree with that?
Probably not, no, especially if they read deep into the book and where I start talking about capitalism and socialism.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how some young people today, a lot of young people, and of course the Democrat Party has embraced the principles of socialism, and it's just unbelievable that that party and these young people have gone off the rails with socialism and the so-called benefits of socialism.
The idea that money talks and people will change their behavior if they're losing money has the influx. It says here 100,000 companies. Let me find that quote again.
Shareholders.
100,000 shareholders have invested more than $2.2 billion. So has the awakening of these folks to say, you know what, I am going to try to consciously make sure that my money is only invested in companies that are morally responsible, corporations that are morally responsible. Has that changed the policy of any of the others?
I have no way of measuring that, Larry, but I think a lot of people who are investors don't realize that some of their money, when they buy a stock, is going to support companies that do these evil things by their standards, by that investor's standards. And when they find out there's an investment vehicle, a family of funds like ours, they are gravitated towards it, and that's what we're trying to do. We're really trying to spread the faith of pro-life, pro-family investing, and
I guess that's why the connection to a political candidate seems to be important in my mind. If we just go back to that for a second, I probably picked a small potato when I said something about a congressman with $5,000. But if you as an investor, if I knew that Corporation XYZ, if Corporation XYZ was supporting a candidate who disagreed with this part, the whole pornography or abortion issues that you stay away from. If he or she disagreed, and there are quite a few she's who disagree, which always surprises me, by the way, would you no longer carry them on as one of the companies you support?
No, we don't get that far away from our guidelines,
okay.
And we're very focused on those four major screens which I talked about, and again, there's a lot of companies engaged in things that we don't screen out. We don't try to screen out companies that produce alcohol or tobacco or firearms or gambling. Those are not our focus. We don't happen to invest in any of those, but we could if we wanted to as portfolio managers. But so we're not for everybody, and we're not trying to be for everybody, but we're for investors, serious long-term investors that like making money, and that's what we want to do for our shareholders. We are analysts and portfolio managers first. We're not monks praying for good ideas.
Yeah.
Do you think that the socialistic attitudes of the young people of today come from the fact that maybe their parents were better off than their parents' parents, so they were able to be given more, and that's why they feel capitalism is a bad thing, that they don't really have to work for anything?
I don't know what drives it, Robin, but any student of history knows that socialism doesn't work, can't work, it's never worked, and socialism always results in the poor being worse off, corruption ensues, poverty increases, of course incentives to produce don't exist, hopelessness and despair always increase, and on the other hand, capitalism and democracy go together and have always resulted in hundreds of thousands or millions of people being better off because of capitalism, creating jobs, creating opportunities, creating wealth. And, of course, wealth has enabled the establishment of many foundations and endowments, which do an awful lot of social good in this country and around the world. And capitalism works, socialism doesn't. Another member of our Catholic Advisory Board who has recently passed away was Michael Novak, the great Michael Novak, Ambassador Michael Novak. And he used to say socialism is the opiate of intellectuals and students. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing these college professors indoctrinating their students with socialist ideas. And I think a lot of these professors, too, are the pot-smoking hippies from the 60s and 70s.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And then you got Ms. Cortez and Ms. Tlaib, who is a foul-mouthed Muslim from my backyard here, Dearborn, Michigan, and they are just off the rails in terms of promoting issues or promoting a philosophy that can only result in less prosperity and more pain for the citizens of our country if those crazy ideas were ever implemented.
Yeah, I think also the misspoken thing is that it's not just the young people who are in favor of socialism. Bernie Sanders is a great example of that. And then Ben Shapiro, a young guy, clearly understands capitalism. So
oh, he's terrific. Yeah, I heard him speak just a couple of weeks ago, and he is outstanding intellectual and outstanding speaker for good things, morally responsible things, including capitalism as practiced in this country.
You have a lot of pride in the different scenarios that you've written about in your book, and it's no wonder that It's a Wonderful Life is your favorite movie.
Yeah, that's great. I love that movie.
It is wonderful. It really is. I mean, it really encompasses everything that the world should be.
The founding fathers knew how to put together a society that would, first of all, be hard to take apart because of the three branches of government, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And also by giving us a constitution that gives us the ability to protect ourselves. There's the Second Amendment, and the ability to open a business and freely advertise it. And while some people say we don't really have a free society because you got to pay for all the taxes and everything, it's as free as it gets in this world.
Yep, you got it, Larry. It's just a tremendous system, and it works for the benefit of almost everybody.
By the way, the professors, the former hippies who are trying to teach socialism, they get paid by the state, and the state gets paid by the capitalists who pay taxes. So
you got it.
So it makes no sense to me that they don't figure this out. That if we were completely socialist, there would be no capitalists fueling the very thing that they want to keep. And we had a discussion one time with some of the people at the Occupy Wall Street movement, and I could not get them to tell me what they were doing. They couldn't tell me what they were trying to do. I said, well, what do you want done? What do you want changed? Well, it's not fair that the people, the CEOs, are making more money than somebody sweeping the floor. I said, "What do you mean that's not fair? That's the way." I can't even understand that way of thinking.
Some of these people, especially the young, I just think haven't lived long enough to understand how socialism hurts the economy. I think others, maybe Bernie Sanders included, and other older people that are pushing socialism, are doing it in an effort to bring down Trump and hurt his reelection chances and hurt the economy, hurt the stock market, which is perverse. But sad as it is, there's this opiate of the intellectuals is spreading, and it's just shocking.
What I'm amazed at is that the defensive intuition of those people who support Trump, they're not bringing up all of the socialist-minded people who actually got money from the Trump organization before he was even involved in politics. Mm-hmm. But they went to him with their hand out, and they took it when he offered it.
Sure.
I mean, they took his money. His money. I paid money to Trump. I paid $5 for a stupid piece of chocolate in his Trump Tower.
And it's very ironic that Bernie Sanders made his money from capitalism, and he's promoting socialism.
Yeah. Just a sad state of affairs.
One of the most interesting things about your book also I found was when you were speaking about the design of the Great Seal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In God we trust. Sure.
Yeah.
So very predictably on Amazon, you have those giving you 5 stars and those giving you 1 star. So that's very predictable with this kind of subject, isn't it?
Probably so, yeah.
In fact, I expect that since we're putting this up as a podcast after we're done, I'm expecting that on YouTube we're going to get a lot of people writing hateful things about Robin and I, and you, I'm sure.
I love the book, though. I love your perspective, and I love this whole concept that you have.
I do, too.
Well, thanks so much, Robin.
And it makes I think it makes us think. It makes us realize that we can't just invest willy-nilly. I think sometimes we have to take control of what we're investing and not just let somebody else do it for us.
Yeah, I'm particularly proud of our Catholic Advisory Board, which, as I said earlier, sets the parameters for what we should screen out. And your listeners, I'm sure, know some of these names on our Catholic Advisory Board, including Robbie George, Princeton University professor, Tom Monahan of Domino's fame, and Larry Kudlow, who's the director of the National Economic Council for the president. Lou Holtz, Coach Lou Holtz, the former head football coach at Notre Dame. So we've got some high-powered people, Catholics, who are loyal to the magisterium, the hierarchy of the Catholic Church, and really have their heads screwed on straight. And then we got a few members of the cloth. We got Cardinal Maida, retired Archbishop of Detroit, and the current Archbishop of Detroit, Archbishop Vigneron. So we're getting plenty of good Catholic advice, pro-life advice, and our shareholders, who are predominantly Catholic, not all Catholics, but they are pro-life and pro-family, and we're just blessed to have so many of them attracted to our funds and invest in our funds, and we're making money for them. Some cases, a lot of money.
George, thank you for being on the show with us. I have a copy of the book. It's called In God We Trust. If you would like the copy that was sent to us, call me right now, 622-9622. I'll leave it here for you. I'll just pick one caller at random. Probably won't be on the air, though, because I need to move forward. But George Schwartz, the book is on Amazon. Do you have a different website you want to recommend?
Our website is AveMariaFunds.com.
Okay.
And our toll-free number is 866 Ave Maria.
Nice.
Okay. I
love this.
All right.
I'm checking this out.
Now I got that song in my head. George, thank you for being on the show with us.
Thank you, Larry and Robin.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Veterans Helping Veterans USA. Call 352-433-2320. We help veterans and their families with limited financial assistance, counseling, employment